Within my first couple months, I had a really bad week of just wrong Git commands. I think I messed up like several branches that had to be redone. And every day I was messaging in the team Slack like, oh man, I made another Git mistake.
Welcome to the Junior Jobs Podcast, where we give new software engineers actionable job search advice relevant to today's job market. In today's interview, I'm talking with Chris Lee, who recently got his first job as a web developer after years of being an international nightclub DJ. And he completed that transition without a college degree and without a boot camp, just 5 months as a self-taught developer. So I'm excited to hear how he did it. And today's job search shout out is to Anna Miller with Second Careers, a consultancy focused on helping job changers launch their new career in tech. She offers personalized training as part of a 12-week program where you'll learn how to accelerate your job search to land your first job in tech. And Anna is offering our listeners a free introductory call, so just use the link in the show notes to get started. All right, Chris, welcome to the show. Glad you could join us.
Hey, how are you doing, Eric? Thanks for having me.
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you. So first I have to say congratulations on the career transition. There are so many parts of that story I want to dive into. But let's start with this. Since you didn't go the college or boot camp route, how did you first go about learning how to code? Like what tools and resources did you leverage to gain that proficiency?
Yeah, so back in middle school, high school, I did study some like basic computer science, did like Java with Carol the robot and like some HTML, CSS, but obviously HTML, CSS changed a lot over the years. So diving back in, it was more brushing up on that, learning the newer stuff for HTML5, CSS3. And then that was maybe about like a week or two. And then I kind of dove into the world of the unknown, which was JavaScript. Everyone said, I was researching all the different languages. Should I dive into Java, JavaScript, Python? And so everyone's like, oh, if you want to do web work, which I could relate to the most, it was JavaScript. I really started searching. I'm a huge like self learner. Like anything I try to do at home, any like home improvement stuff, I'm always on YouTube. I'm always on Google. Like, oh, how do I do this? And I try to figure it out myself. Even throughout the years as a DJ, I did all of my own marketing, graphic work, and all that, and that was a ton of self learning. And so my first result brought me to free code camp. And I love that just because everything was built into the browser. You didn't have to have your own IDE set up or anything. You could take it one module at a time. And that kind of got me comfortable with everything. And I was like, oh, you know what? I think I can do this.
Was
Um,
there like a Udemy course or like a tutorial series you found on YouTube, a book that you bought? Like, what does that look like to be a self-taught developer?
yeah. So really, I got my structure from kind of like going over the Odin project. I didn't do the entire Odin project, but I looked at it and kind of saw what things I needed to learn. And I would YouTube those specific topics. There wasn't a specific person that I went to or like a series. I did use Codecademy, which was pretty structured there. And they had good examples and projects. And then for brushing up on specifically React stuff, what was that? Zero to Mastery, I think is what it was on Udemy. But
Okay. Okay.
after that, I kind of just jumped on YouTube and looked up individual project tutorials, kind of like follow along, watching them make clones and stuff, just to get the hang of how everything ties together. Because in the courses, like they teach you how to use certain inputs and components, but really it's up to you to put it all together to like the final project. And so I tried to go on. There's a guy, his name's Sunny Senga, Papa React. He's kind of my level of hype. Every time he does YouTube streams, he's always hype on there and bringing everybody in and having them follow along with his projects. And I'm a huge fan of his projects. Kind of disappointed he's not doing as much anymore because I like to try to stay fresh on the new stuff. But yeah,
Well, if
that's
he's
kind
got
of
recordings on YouTube, at least it'd still be valuable to get the foundation there.
Yeah.
But I mean, even if you go the college or the boot camp route, everybody at some point becomes a self-taught software engineer because the industry changes so much. I went and I got a traditional 4-year degree in programming that I'm pretty sure was obsolete just a couple of years after graduating because so many languages, new frameworks, and developments in the industry pop up, right? So everybody needs to be a self-taught developer. So it's great that you were able to develop that competency, that comfortability with facing the unknown early on.
Yeah, I think the most important thing that anyone ever told me was that the most important thing to learn in being a developer is learning how to learn, right?
Yeah, and everybody's different there. Some people like to go read a detailed book that's a whole treatise on the why behind JavaScript. Some people like to follow tutorials and get more visual. Some people need more hands-on and doing it themselves. So, part of that self-taught journey is figuring out what is the most effective means for you and just diving deep into that. So now you work for a mortgage lending company, which is quite different from the DJ scene, I imagine. So how
Yeah.
did you even find that opportunity?
So just like anybody else, when looking for a job, I combed the job boards and kind of looked for my ideal like workplace environment. And just like anybody else, I'm on like Indeed, LinkedIn. And I know just from my experience, my work experience in the past, I kind of like a like kind of a spontaneous, unpredictable type of atmosphere. And so that kind of drew me towards startups. I like being able to experience a lot of different things. So, like when you work for a startup, you get to wear a lot of different hats. And I started looking specifically for skills that I wanted to utilize. I did have some basic WordPress experience in the past, and specifically, I do remember this job rec mentioned in the job rec that they were looking to migrate off of WordPress into a React based web application. And then the additional requirements on there was that they were looking for somebody with an AWS cloud practitioner certification, which I didn't have at the time, but I knew I wanted to get into that and I wanted to get some more experience using AWS services. And so I kind of mentioned that in my cover letter and in my interview as well. And basically just searching over and over for anything that was related to Next.js in particular, which I'm a huge fan of, or just using React and Tailwind, another big thing I'm a fan of.
So just to reiterate what I'm learning here, stop me if I'm misrepresenting this, but you took the skill sets that were in these job applications for the work environments that you were interested in, and you made sure either before or during the application process that you actually spent some time learning those specific tools and languages so that you could stand out as a more applicable hire for that role. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I did that.
Like,
And also just playing on my strengths, I was looking for the job recs that were focusing on the things that I was strong at.
yeah, an interesting point there. You mentioned WordPress specifically, right? So a developer having experience in a less popular technology can still be a differentiator as there are lots of companies going through big cloud migrations or big rewrites of their code base. So your experience with WordPress, while maybe not, what you were practicing and doing in your YouTube self-taught approach was still a key differentiator, it sounds like to me.
Yeah, it definitely made it easier to jump in and kind of figure out my way around. It was just a refresher instead of having to learn where everything was. And so I did have to maintain the code base for for WordPress for a few months before the migration process actually started. And then yeah, so it kind of made the onboarding and like ramp up quicker.
Okay. Okay. So let's talk about you mentioned you were first trying to find roles that were in the environment that you were interested in. You mentioned startups specifically. How did you in your search narrow down the search results by startup or I imagine there's no filter for it. Dynamic,
Yeah, no.
crazy, insane work environment, right? How did you
Yeah,
find the
no,
right fit your
it's just doing your
personality?
research on the company, right? Like when you look at your job rec, you're not just gonna go on there and just click apply to everything. I spend some time, I research the company, look company size, what they're doing, see like what kind of atmosphere they're projecting on their either their website or their materials, their social media or whatnot.
Okay, and then so did you do, like, any bulk massive applies to, hundreds of roles, or did you take that more personalized approach to all that you were applying to?
Yeah, in the beginning, obviously, I was just going out there, just throwing applications every which way, but none of those got any traction. And then the more time I spent sending applications, the more time I spent researching on how to land the first job. So I spent a ton of time on Reddit and on YouTube, just reading and listening to what people have to say. And I feel like the best feedback was just narrow down who you're applying to, because it can also get pretty demotivating when you send out like hundreds of applications and all you get are like rejections, right? But if you target your or narrow down at least who you're applying to, then you know you have a better chance of those. And if you're only sending out 5 applications and maybe you get like 5 or 4 rejections back, it doesn't feel as bad as, you send out like 200 applications and every morning you wake up to an inbox full of just, sorry, we've moved on. Thank you for your application. But
Yeah, there's a mental health component to how you approach the job search as well, I guess, isn't there? Yeah, you need to do whatever you need to do to stay motivated and consistent, or else you're just gonna go back to your old world of a DJ, in your instance, or
I mean,
back as like a hospital
the job
technician.
search the job search in itself is like a job, right? You have to be pretty structured, and if you just send out an application here and there every weekend, then you're not really covering all your bases. So
Yeah.
it literally was every day for me. I was looking at potential opportunities to see if they align with what I'm looking for.
Yeah, if you do that bulk apply approach, sure, you're gonna get your resume in front of more recruiters, but everybody's doing that. And in a pile of 500 applications for a junior role, the likelihood that they're gonna toss your resume out if it's not targeted to the specific needs of that company is gonna be pretty high. So definitely take the extra time to make sure you highlight your skills and your overlap with the actual job. So you got called in for an interview, I assume. In that discussion, how did you convince them that your DJ experience was relevant for the role that you were applying to? Or did they not even care about your past experience and they just focused on your portfolio and your projects?
Yeah, so the initial call was with HR, and so they asked me my portfolio and explained kind of like what I've been learning and what I'm comfortable with, what my strengths and weaknesses are, obviously. But I feel like what kinda gave me a step up was that I could, in lieu of my experience, I could kind of parlay all of my past experiences into the work that I do as a web developer. And so as a DJ, I've done all of my own marketing, graphic design. That was another thing that was on the job rec. That was like design experience a plus. And
Oh,
so I could use that. I'm comfortable with Adobe Creative Suite. I do like flyers, I do video editing, stuff like that. So I kind of like I threw all that out there and was like, "Look, like this is my skill set, and I'm looking to combine all of this into this new opportunity." And then on top of that, working in the hospital, I was able to use my problem solving skills because I worked in the emergency room for in total about 7 years. It was broken up in bits and pieces, but in total about 7 years, and every day is a new problem solved. So that's kind of you got to be quick on your feet.
yeah, I like that. So you found a role that, while not directly related to your previous work experience, was still of a similar nature so that you were able to pull that experience forward. I'm just trying to think of people that work in like retail and have a lot of customer facing experience. If you're going to
Yeah.
be on a team that is interfacing a lot with the client, like a consulting firm, that might be more of an applicable
Yeah, or
environment.
even internally, right? Because as a DJ, I have to deal with venues, managers, booking agents, all sorts of people, and I'm able to use that in my experience in building relationships to build relationships with internal stakeholders. Because
Hmm.
not everybody gets along, not everybody works the same way, right? But you still have to be able to build and maintain that relationship.
Yeah. And then your experience with the design aspect became an important part of this specific job opening. But if you have previous experience, I don't know, let's say you are in the military and you have some security clearance, so you can leverage that, experience of what you have to look for a government contract roles. Or if you're a teacher and you had to create your own lesson plans, well, let's say you're on a small team and now you're responsible for kind of prioritizing and organizing your own work. Every industry that you're coming from, even though it's non-technical related, there's still overlap in the skills that you learn. And it's just learning how to market it in a way that is relevant to the role that you're applying to.
Yep, exactly.
That's good. So now that you're gainfully employed, is there anything you wish you had studied or practiced more of that you think would have helped you be more successful in the role that you're in now?
Yeah, if any of my coworkers watch this from the engineering team, they probably will know I'm laughing. Within my first couple months, I had a really bad week of just wrong Git commands.
Okay.
I think I messed up like several branches that had to be redone. And every day I was messaging in the team Slack like, "Oh man, I made another Git mistake." But yeah, I mean, I knew the basic Git commands, but in terms of understanding like different Git flow, I guess I don't know what you call it, but you know how they have like kind of like Git flow and then they have like trunk based architecture and that like just the way of
Hmm.
like branching and all of that and then merging it all back together. That's kind of where I struggled a lot. The other thing I probably would go back and learn more of in advance is just data, where it either just completely focus on NoSQL or SQL. But I mean, if I knew what I'd be getting into now and I could go back, I would learn like a lot of Postgres.
Oh yeah. SQL
That's kind
commands is
of,
backend developer for sure. Is there? I'm just trying to think of when I was a junior developer, and I haven't used these tools in a while. So I mean, keep me honest if there's something more relevant to the market today. But Source Tree, Git Kraken, these were UI based Git tools that as a junior made it a lot easier for me to understand. You have a visual tree of all of your different branches, and merging and unmerging is just like a click, a press of a
yeah.
button
So
type of experience. So less likely you're going to screw yourself up too much by typing in the wrong Git command.
after my mishap with all the Git commands, I started looking into like UI like solutions. And so I landed on Fork, which was pretty cool.
Okay.
If you're using Apple, you can find it in the App Store, I believe, and it's just called Fork. And that's kind of
Okay.
what I use. And I know VS Code has like a built-in tool for it as well,
Hmm.
but I do like having an external application for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Right now, I'm mostly the command line, or I use whatever's built into VS Code. When you're a beginner, don't feel like you have to do everything by yourself. There are tools out there to solve common problems like managing your Git commits and your branches. Feel free to leverage, right? And feel free to reach out to your community of other junior developers because I'm sure everybody's made a similar mistake before. Chris, you're not the first one to have messed up your Git commands. And there are tools out there to automate it and make it easier for you, for sure. Great recommendations. So I just want to say, Chris, that's all the time we have for today. So thank you so much for sharing your story. And thank you to all that are listening. We will catch you all next time. Thanks for tuning in to the Junior Jobs Podcast. We hope you found today's interview helpful as you navigate your own job search in tech. If you enjoyed the show, please remember to like and subscribe as that helps us reach more developers in need. And don't forget to check the show notes for details on today's sponsor and other job search services that we provide. Thanks for listening and have a great day.